Malayan, or Indonesian archipelago, has been known by many names over the centuries. It is home to more than 320 million people, descended from a plethora of unique ethnic groups, who speak hundreds of different dialects and languages. It is the main global producer of cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, and so many of the things that make food taste great. Today, this region is predominantly comprised of the emerging economic powerhouse of Malaysia, and Indonesia, the fourth most populous nation on Earth, which also has the largest Muslim population in the world, as well as the absolute monarchy of Brunei, the Roman Catholic Republic of East Timor, one of two Christian nations in Southeast Asia, and the economic colossus of Singapore. This region, originally populated by Melanesian people in humanity's early prehistory, were followed by Austronesian peoples, migrating into the archipelago from the north. The earliest kingdoms that we know of that developed in this region were established approximately 2,000 years ago, and by the 3rd century, there were many prosperous independent states, exporting vast quantities of spices and other luxury goods, primarily north, to the Chinese dynastic empires. These early kingdoms were heavily Indianized, and were often under the influence of the Chola dynasty of southern India, and predominantly converted to Hinduism, Buddhism, sometimes combined with local religious practices. Around the year 650 AD, the kingdom of Kantoli is believed to have changed dynasties, or evolved into the Srivijaya Empire. The Srivijayans were master seafarers, whose merchant ships were a common sight from the Philippine archipelago, the Bay of Bengal, the West African coast, Arabia, and Madagascar, where many Srivijayans migrated to, where their Malayan DNA is prevalent among the modern Malagasy people 1200 years later. The Srivijayan dynasty on Sumatra would merge with the Buddhist Shailendra dynasty of Java, who would rule the empire. They embarked upon many great projects, including Borobudur, the largest Buddhist structure on Earth. By the early 11th century, Shailendra had taken Srivijaya to its greatest extent, conquering the majority of the neighboring Javanese kingdoms, thus controlling both the major trading straits of Malacca and Sunda. They took advantage of the situation, and greatly increased the tax on merchant ships traveling through the straits. This not only angered the Chinese Song dynasty, who had supported the Srivijayan conquest of Java, but also their longtime trading partner, the Hindu Chola Empire of southern India. Under the pretext of aiding their fellow Hindus in the Khmer Empire and Srivijayan vassal states, the Chola Empire sent what many believe to be the largest fleet in Indian history to systematically sack the Srivijayan cities and defeat their armies. This military action had 3 effects. 1. The tariffs were drastically reduced. 2. The Srivijayans and the Chola were allies again, and in 1068 the Chola would send fleets of warships to aid the Srivijayans. 3. This undoubtedly sent the empire into rapid decay and decline, and by the mid-12th century they had completely lost influence in Java, which came under the rule of the Kadiri kingdom, who began to challenge the declining Srivijayan empire for the position as regional hegemon. The Kadiri were overthrown by the legendary Kenarok, who arose from humble peasant beginnings, raised by a thief, and through a series of adventures established the Raj Asa dynasty. The rulers of Singhasari and later Majapahit empires would trace their lineages back to the mysterious figure of Kenarok. Singhasari would be extremely successful, especially under their most ambitious and last king, Kirtanagara. A flood of conquered vassals sent emissaries to the most powerful man in the world, the Mongol emperor of the Yuan dynasty, Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan. Upon hearing of this rapidly growing empire to the south, he sent emissaries asking for tribute. The first ones went ignored, and then Kirtanagara had one tattooed and his ears cut off, and sent back to Kublai Khan. He was enraged, and began preparing for a fleet of 1,000 war junks manned by 20,000 men to invade. This blatant act of hostility